Hello, and welcome back to the channel. I thought with the final content patch now out for Shadowbringers, this would be a good place to put down some points for those who are looking to invest more time into the game but not sure what goals they should set themselves. With most of the content here, we'll be focusing on what is available in Shadowbringers. It will also extend into previous expansions. Throughout the video I've added annotations where some of the content can be unlocked if you're unsure. One of the first things you might want to look at is setting raiding goals. If you have never raided before, I'd possibly try starting by looking at the earlier extreme trials, especially now that that item level is higher, and this makes it an even easier gateway to enter this content. The extreme trials give a lot more room for error and allow you to become more proficient at your class, so it's a really great starting point to get into the raiding scene. And with this, they still provide reasonable upgrades to weapons, and even a lot of them drop mounts and minions and craftable items which may be useful for getting gil or just adding to your collections. Once you have a couple of these fights under your belt, it then opens a gateway for you to be able to try the new Savage fights. I would recommend starting at E9 Savage, and then from there, using practice parties should allow you to be able to enter these fights with little to no restrictions on the amount of knowledge you know about the fight. From personal experience in the past, it's probably good to start joining practice parties or setting up your own. This will help reduce the amount of anxiety that you have, as you can set your own pace about learning the fight. Remember just to always be honest on your experience and let them know exactly what you do and don't know about the fight, and try to be able to take criticism where it is necessary. For those that have cleared all the Savage and Extreme trials throughout the expansion, it may be a time to start looking at the Ultimate fights. These are a lot more difficult than the other content you may have done, but it is always worth just giving a go. Even if you don't complete it, it is great experience for the long run. As for the Ultimate fights, I would probably recommend joining a static group, as the mechanics in those fights do need a lot more coordination than any other fight you probably would have done in the game, so it's probably something to consider. One thing that most people will tend to do when content begins to drought is usually look to complete a checklist. Either that could be achievements, collecting minions, or my personal favourite is collecting mounts. I use a website called FFXIV Collect. It's a website that tracks all your collectibles in the game, including hairstyles, and even blue mage spells and emotes. In terms of farming mounts, I would recommend if you still have old EX Primal mounts to collect from other expansions, this would be the best time to get them. With this stat squish coming in older content during Endwalker, this would be the best time to farm them, as later on it may prove a little more challenging than it currently stands. Don't forget, if you have beast tribes that you still need to max the reputation on, I would recommend doing these on your dailies, as these do all give a mount each at max reputation. Also, PvP also includes a lot of mounts from achievements, so getting on these during the downtime where there's not much content coming out would be the best time, especially when the Tombstone event for the Moogle is up. This one's quite an obvious one. Many players aspire to have all their classes at max level, and this can be quite a feat, especially if you're new to the game, but there are numerous ways that you can level your battle classes and crafters and gatherers. Ways that you can level up your battle classes include doing roulettes and dungeons. These are easily accessible and are probably the most efficient way of learning your class while leveling. Another is Palace of the Dead and Heaven on High. This is content that allows you to play your class while being able to use skills of a higher level, so you can actually get a feel for what the job is at higher levels. If you are also undertaking the Relic quest inside Bozja, doing it on a level 71 or above class can also net you some experience, so you can knock out two birds with one stone. As for crafters and gatherers, the best way to level these is by doing beast tribes at their current level, so for a Realm Reborn this would be around about the level 40 to 50 range. Leave quests of crafting and gathering also give net reasonable experience, so I would use these, especially when you have some spare. Ishgard Restoration is another great way, which was recently added in Shadowbringers to be able to level up your crafter and gathering and also gain some little goodies on the side. Having gatherers and crafters leveled and geared will give you an edge on the market board for Endwalker and will allow you to become more self-sufficient, which also leads us into our next point. If you're looking for things to do in game, one thing that you can always do, unless you've got all retainers capped with gil, is go make some. There are numerous ways that you can do this too. There are ways that you can make gil outside of just crafting. Some of these include doing maps, so if you have a gatherer or a spare bit of gil to put on the market board, you can buy maps, go on adventures with a group of up to 8 people and discover some rare treasure, some of it which can actually sell pretty well on the market board. Another obvious way to make gil is just use your crafters and gatherers, like make items, potions, food and sell them on the market board. It always will sell, as long as you set the price and don't get overtaken by bots, you will be able to make some profit on it. While it's not the quickest way to make gil these days, it is still great for making a bit of pocket change on the side. One way to also save your gil and actually not spend as much as you need to is that a lot of people don't realise is that when they're teleporting quite a lot throughout the day when they're playing the game, is that they can sometimes spend up to 1,000 gil per teleport. I would recommend doing hunts. These will allow you to get some aetheryte tickets. Spending it on these will actually allow you to save quite a bit of passive gil, and you'll realise that you're not spending as much. Bozja is also a great way to make some gil, with selling the fragments that you get from mob drops and fates, as well as the items from lockboxes. If you don't need them, it can actually net you a little bit of gil. Actually, maybe into the millions if a mount does drop, and you don't really, or you have it, or you don't want it. But if you have all the gil, what's the purpose of it? Going into the new expansion can be even more expensive than what a normal patch would be. A lot more items are added to the market board, and if you're not up to scratch on your gatherers and crafters, you may need to actually buy some items if you're looking to raid. I would normally start going into an expansion with around about 10 to 20 million gil. This is usually a good setting point, but if you're going to raid, you probably want to double that. Square Enix also mentioned that they're going to add more of the gil mounts. At the moment we have a 25 million and a 75 million mount which is purchasable, but as Endwalker comes out, they're most likely going to add more or even increase the price of the ones that they do add. Not to mention housing. Housing is always a gil sink. Number 5 on our list is doing the Relic Bozja. I'll keep this pretty short, but it's probably something that you should be doing. As Shadowbringers ends, it will be a lot harder to get this content done. Not impossible, but groups will begin to decrease, and you'll probably see Bozja become a little bit more empty. So if you want to take the opportunity now, this would be the best time to get the relic. Not to mention, Bozja itself does contain quite a bit of content in there, free raids, and a whole lot of solo duels and achievements, mounts, minions, and a whole lot of other collectibles. So it's probably worth doing if you're into that kind of thing. While we have a good few months until the next expansion, it would be good to start accumulating that MGP. The seasonal event is due in July, which might possibly drop some new items, but will also increase the amount of MGP earned, which will make it a good chance to do this. Not to mention, Triple Triad at the moment currently has a new mount, which you can get for collecting all the cards, and some of them cost quite a bit of MGP to do so, and when Endwalker comes out, they're going to be doing like a rehaul of the Gold Saucer with a lot more activities and most likely introduce a lot more mounts and collectibles that you can get from this. Don't forget, one thing that you can still do is your weekly Wondrous Tales and Unreal Trials. Wondrous Tales can be a bit of a lottery, but doing your Unreal Trials each week, gaining the points from the Faust hollows, you can then get some rare items. Some mounts, although reskins that still go towards your collection, and other miscellaneous items. So it can still be something you can do within a group, have a bit of fun, and get some rewards from it in the end. And with your Wondrous Tales each week, with it still being a lottery as I mentioned, it's still worth doing. Free gil, free maps, and if you're just leveling up your characters, even experience. So it's always good to revisit some of that content and get some bits and bobs for it as well. One big piece of content that people tend to forget, or maybe not tend to forget, but kind of put to one side, is Blue Mage. Blue Mage itself is a strong piece of content which seems to get overlooked quite a lot, but being quite fun in its own experience. If you haven't delved into Blue Mage yet, there's plenty to do. A whole lot of spells you can obtain on a Pokemon-like basis, completing carnival challenges, and raiding as Blue Mage. So doing maybe raids that you've done before in the past in other expansions, but with a totally different experience to them. And all of this doesn't come unrewarded. You get mounts, minions, and you can even get allegory and even seals as well, so sometimes it is worth doing. If you haven't given Blue Mage a try yet, but are quite dubious of it, it's still worth giving it a go. You might find that it's brand new content that you're enjoying. Finally, I wanted to start by giving some honourable mentions. Stuff that I haven't mentioned in the video, but I'll go over quickly, and maybe worth looking into. Some of the honourable mentions I want to give a shout out to is the sightseeing log, the fishing boat for fishers, completing side story quests, completing a glamour set ready for Endwalker, collecting the orchestrion rolls, even doing the trust system, leveling them up, and even the barracks for your grand company. There's still plenty you can do, and including all this you still have Ishgard restoration. Complete that, get some skybuilder points built up on your crafters and gatherers, and go into the diadem and build and collect items that are obtainable from that, and even start by doing your crafting and gathering relics. There's many items and achievements to obtain there, so it's probably worth looking into, although I can understand it's not for everybody. There's definitely a lot on here that I've missed, or not mentioned in this video. If there's anything else that you can think of, drop a comment in the comment section below to let others know what you can do in the downtime. I mean, hell, you could even RP during this time. Not for everybody, not for me, but it is there for others, and it is an option. Thanks for taking the time to watch the video. I hope this has been useful in finding things that you want to do, or things that you weren't really aware of that you could put goals towards while you wait for Endwalker. As I'm doing these videos, I'm also trying to improve my dictation, or, my speech on how these are put across. If you have any suggestions or anything that you want me to do on how I speak, talk, slow down, let me know, and I can put these into the video too. If you wish to follow me and support me further, you can follow me on Twitch and various other platforms which I'll put in the description below. But for now, take care, and I'll see you soon.